Our wedding planner looked perfect. Her portfolio was stunning. Her references were glowing. She promised us a dream wedding. There was one small thing that caught my attention. She wanted the deposit paid to her personal account, not the company account. Tax advantage, she said. I didn't push back. That was a mistake. On our wedding day, everything vanished. So did she, along with our $15,000. My name is Alaric Brenner. I'm 31 years old, a high school history teacher in Portland, Oregon. This is the story of how my fiancée Neve and I hired what we thought was a professional wedding planner, and how she destroyed what should have been the happiest day of our lives. And this is the story of how I tracked her down, exposed her con, and made sure she couldn't do this to anyone else. I met Neve 4 years ago at a friend's book club. She was a pediatric nurse at Oregon Health and Science University. I was teaching AP History at Lincoln High School. We hit it off immediately. Both of us loved hiking, old movies, and long conversations about nothing and everything. I proposed in October 2023 at Cannon Beach, her favorite place on the coast. She said yes before I even finished the question. We set the wedding date for June 15th, 2024, 8 months to plan. Neither of us had done this before, and neither of our families lived in Portland. Mine were in Michigan, hers in Idaho. We needed help. That's when we found Sable Oaks. Neve discovered her through a local wedding planning website. Sable's page looked professional. Sleek website, beautiful photos of past weddings, testimonials from happy couples. Her tagline, "Your dream wedding perfectly executed." We scheduled a consultation at a coffee shop in the Pearl District. Sable arrived exactly on time, dressed impeccably, carrying a leather portfolio. She was probably in her early 40s, confident, warm. "Tell me about your vision," she said, opening a notebook. Neve described what we wanted: outdoor ceremony, intimate reception for about 150 guests, vintage romantic theme with lots of candles and string lights. Nothing too Our budget was around $35,000 total. Sable nodded, taking notes. "That's absolutely doable. I've done dozens of weddings in that range. Let me show you my work." She opened her portfolio, page after page of gorgeous wedding photos, outdoor venues, elegant table settings, happy couple. Everything looked professional, tasteful, exactly what we were hoping for. "These are beautiful," Neve said, her eyes lighting up. "Thank you. I work with the best vendors in the area. Florists, caterers, photographers. I've been doing this for 12 years. My couples trust me to handle everything so they can just enjoy their day." That sounded perfect. We were both working full-time. Neve was doing rotating shifts at the hospital. I had a classroom full of students and after-school debate team. Planning a wedding on top of that felt overwhelming. "What's your process?" I asked. "Simple. You tell me your vision and your budget. I coordinate everything: venue, catering, flowers, music, photography, rentals. I handle all vendor communications, contracts, payments. You show up to fittings and tastings when needed, but otherwise, I take care of the details." "And your fee?" $15,000. That covers full-service planning from now until your wedding day. I'll be there on site to manage setup and coordinate everything." Neve and I exchanged glances. 15,000 was a big chunk of our budget, but if it meant we didn't have to stress about coordinating a dozen different vendors while working full-time, it seemed worth it. "Can we think about it?" I asked. "Of course. Take your time. Just keep in mind that June is a popular month. Vendors book up quickly. The sooner we get started, the better your options will be." We left the coffee shop feeling excited. Sable seemed professional, experienced, exactly what we needed. That night, Neve and I talked it over. "She seems great," Neve said. "And those weddings in her portfolio were beautiful." "Yeah," I agreed. 15,000 is a lot, but if it means we're not drowning in details for the next 8 months, it's probably worth it. Should we check her references? Good idea. Sable had listed 3 references on her website, couples she'd worked with in the past year. I called all 3. Every one of them raved about her. "Sable was incredible," one bride told me. "Our wedding was perfect. She handled everything. We didn't have to worry about a single thing." That sealed it. A week later, we met with Sable again and signed a contract. The contract was straightforward: $15,000 for full-service planning, with a payment schedule. 50% up front, the rest due 1 month before the wedding. Sable handed me an invoice. You can pay by check or bank transfer. Just send it to this account. I looked at the account information. It wasn't a business account. It was a personal checking account under the name Sable M. Oaks. This is a personal account? I asked. Sable smiled. Yes, I'm a sole proprietor, so my business income goes through my personal account. It's simpler for tax purposes. That seemed a little odd. Most businesses I'd worked with had separate business accounts, but Sable sounded confident, and I didn't know much about how sole proprietorships worked. Is that normal? Neve asked, echoing my thoughts. Very normal for small businesses like mine. If you're more comfortable, I can set up a separate account, but it'll delay things by a week or two while I get the paperwork sorted. We were eager to get started. June was 8 months away, but Sable had warned us that popular venues and vendors filled up fast. It's fine, I said. We trust you. I wrote a check for $7,500 and handed it to her. Looking back, that was the moment I should have paused, but I didn't. I wanted to believe we'd found the perfect wedding planner. I wanted to believe that Neve and I could focus on getting married without drowning in logistics. So I ignored the small voice in the back of my mind that said something wasn't quite right. Over the next few months, Sable was everything we'd hoped for. She scheduled tours of potential venues. She arranged tastings with caterers. She connected us with florists and photographers. Every week, we'd meet, sometimes in person, sometimes over video call, and Sable would walk us through the progress. I've secured the date at Leach Botanical Garden for your ceremony, she said in late November. It's perfect. Outdoor space, beautiful greenery, exactly what you wanted. That's great, Neve said. What's the cost? $3,500 for the venue rental. I've already submitted the deposit from your budget. We were thrilled. Leach Botanical Garden was exactly the kind of place we'd envisioned. Intimate, natural, close to Portland, but tucked away enough to feel private. In December, Sable arranged a catering tasting. We met with a company called Evergreen Catering at their kitchen in Southeast Portland. The food was delicious. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, artisan breads. This is perfect, Neve said. Let's book them. Done, Sable replied. I'll finalize the contract this week. In January, we met with a photographer Sable recommended, a woman named Iris, who had a beautiful, naturalistic style. We loved her work and agreed to hire her. Great choice, Sable said. Iris is one of the best in Portland. I'll get her contract signed and her deposit paid. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Sable was organized, responsive, always one step ahead. She sent us detailed spreadsheets showing budget breakdowns, timelines, vendor contact information. We felt lucky. Planning a wedding while working full-time should have been stressful, but with Sable handling the coordination, it felt manageable. In February, Neve and I paid the second half of Sable's fee, another $7,500. We were now fully paid up. You're all set, Sable said. From here, it's just finalizing details. I'll handle all the vendor payments and logistics. You two just need to show up and get married. We laughed. That sounded perfect. But then, in March, something strange happened. I ran into a former colleague at a grocery store, a woman named Tessa who'd gotten married the previous summer. We'd chatted briefly at her wedding, and I remembered she'd hired a wedding planner. Hey, Tessa, how have you been? Good. I heard you're getting married. Congratulations. Thanks. We're excited. We hired a wedding planner, Sable Oaks. She's been great. Tessa's expression changed, just slightly. A flicker of something. Confusion? Concern? Sable Oaks? She repeated. Yeah. Do you know her? I think I've heard the name. Where's she based? Portland. She's been planning weddings here for 12 years, she said. Tessa hesitated. I don't want to worry you, but I'd double-check everything with your vendors. Make sure contracts are actually signed and deposits are actually paid. Why? I've heard stories about wedding planners who take deposits and don't follow through. I'm sure Sable's fine, but it doesn't hurt to verify. Her tone was cautious, like she didn't want to alarm me, but felt obligated to say something. Thanks, I said. I'll check. When I got home, I mentioned it to Neve. Tessa seemed weird when I mentioned Sable's name. She said I should double-check with our vendors. That's odd. Did she say why? Not really. just that she'd heard stories about wedding planners not following through. Neve frowned. Should we call the vendors? Probably, just to be safe. The next day, I called Leach Botanical Garden. Hi, this is Alaric Brenner. I'm getting married there in June. I wanted to confirm that our date is reserved. The woman on the phone paused. Let me check. What's the date? June 15th. Another pause. I'm not seeing a reservation under that name. My stomach dropped. It should be under our wedding planner, Sable Oaks. Hold on. I heard typing. No, I'm not seeing anything under that name either for June 15th. Are you sure you booked with us? Yes. Our planner said she'd submitted the deposit in November. I'm sorry, but I don't have any record of that. June 15th is actually already booked by another couple. I felt cold. Can you check if Sable Oaks has made any reservations at all? More typing. No, I'm not seeing any bookings under that name. I thanked her and hung up. Then I immediately called Evergreen Catering. Hi, this is Alaric Brenner. I wanted to confirm our catering for June 15th. The same response. No record, no contract, no deposit. I called the photographer, Iris. I don't have anything scheduled for June 15th, she said, and I don't think I've ever worked with a planner named Sable Oaks. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone, trying to process what I was hearing. Sable had been sending us spreadsheets, updates, confirmations. She told us everything was booked. Deposits were paid. Contracts were signed. None of it was true. I called Sable immediately. It went to voicemail. I left a message. Sable, this is Alaric. I just called our vendors, and none of them have any record of bookings or deposits. Please call me back as soon as possible. An hour later, she texted, Hi, Alaric. Sorry, I'm in back-to-back meetings today. Can we talk tomorrow? No, I replied. This is urgent. I need to talk now. She didn't respond. I called again. I sent another text. Sable, I need answers. Did you actually book our venue and vendors? No response. Neve came home from her shift at the hospital, and I told her everything. What? Her face went pale. None of the vendors have our bookings? None of them. But Sable showed us contracts. She sent us budget breakdowns. I know. But I called everyone. Leach Botanical Garden has no record. Evergreen Catering has no record. The photographer has no record. Nothing. Neve sat down, looking stunned. Where's our money? That was the question I'd been avoiding. We'd given Sable $15,000. If she hadn't paid any vendors, where'd that money gone? I don't know, I said, but we need to figure this out. Fast. The next morning, I drove to the address listed on Sable's website, her office in Northwest Portland. It was a virtual office space, the kind businesses rent for mail and occasional meeting rooms. The receptionist told me Sable didn't actually work there. She just rented a mailing address. I tried calling again. Voicemail. I sent an email to the address on her website. Sable, I have confirmed that none of our vendors have received payments or signed contracts. I need an explanation immediately, or I'm going to the police. This time she responded, Alaric, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I had some personal issues come up, and I fell behind on vendor payments. I'm working to fix it right now. Please give me a few days. A few days? Our wedding was 3 months away. That's not acceptable. I wrote back. I need proof that you're fixing this. Send me confirmation from the vendors today. No response. I called a lawyer that afternoon. The lawyer's name was Milo Vaughn. He specialized in consumer fraud cases. I explained the situation. $15,000 paid, no services rendered, wedding 3 months away. Milo listened carefully. Do you have a contract? Yes. Good. And proof of payment? Statements showing both checks clear. Even better. Here's what we do. We send a formal demand letter threatening legal action if she doesn't refund your money within 10 days. If she doesn't respond, we file a lawsuit and report her to the police for fraud. Will that get our money back? Maybe. Depends if she has any assets. But it's the fastest path forward. Milo drafted the demand letter that day. It was sent via certified mail and email. Sable didn't respond. 10 days later, Milo filed a lawsuit in Multnomah County Circuit Court. We also filed a police report with Portland Police Bureau's Fraud Division. These cases take time, the detective told me. But if she's done this to multiple people, we can build a pattern that strengthens the case. Has she done this to other people? I asked. I can't discuss ongoing investigations. but I'd suggest checking online reviews and wedding forums. Sometimes victims post warnings. I went home and started searching. I typed Sable Oaks Wedding Planner Portland into Google, and I found them. The first review I found was on a wedding planning forum from 8 months earlier. Warning: do not hire Sable Oaks. She took our $12,000 deposit and disappeared. We showed up to our venue and found out it was never booked. She won't return calls. We're filing a police report. Then another, from 6 months ago. Sable Oaks is a scammer. She planned our wedding for a year, took $15,000, and when the day came, nothing was ready. No flowers, no photographer, no catering. She vanished. Then another, and another. 6 couples, 6 weddings ruined. Deposits ranging from $10,000 to $18,000. Total, over $90,000 stolen. The pattern was the same every time. Sable would meet with couples, show them her beautiful portfolio, win their trust. She'd take deposits, always to a personal account. She'd send updates, spreadsheets, fake confirmations. Then, as the wedding approached, things would start to unravel. Vendors would have no record of bookings. Sable would become harder to reach. Eventually, she'd disappear entirely. And by then, it was too late. The couples had lost their deposits and had to scramble to salvage their weddings or cancel entirely. I felt sick reading the posts. We weren't the first. We weren't even the second or third. We were the 7th. I called the detective handling our case and forwarded him the links to the forum posts. "This is helpful," he said. "Can you reach out to these other couples? If they're willing to file reports and provide evidence, we can build a stronger case." I spent the next week tracking down the other victims. Most of them had already filed police reports. Some had hired lawyers. None of them had gotten their money back. "She's probably spent it all," one groom told me bitterly. "That's what our lawyer said. Even if we win a judgment, there's nothing to collect." But one victim, a bride named Gemma, told me something useful. "I hired a private investigator," she said. "He found out Sable's real name isn't even Sable Oaks. It's Sandra Kern. She's done this before in California under a different name. She moves cities every few years, changes her business name, and starts over. Do you have contact information for the PI? I'll send it to you." I called the private investigator that afternoon. The private investigator's name was Royce Delaney. He agreed to meet me at a diner in southeast Portland. Royce was in his 50s, former Portland PD, now working private cases. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "This is everything I found on Sandra Kern, also known as Sable Oaks." I opened the folder. Inside were printouts, business registrations, court records, old news articles. "She started in San Diego in 2016, Royce explained. Called herself Sabrina Kent, ran a wedding planning business, scammed at least 4 couples before someone filed a lawsuit. She disappeared before the trial and moved to Sacramento, changed her name to Sable Kearns. Same scam. Then Boise, then Seattle, now Portland. How does she keep getting away with it? She's smart. She targets couples who are busy, stressed, out of town. She builds trust slowly. By the time they realize something's wrong, their wedding is days or weeks away, and they're too panicked to think clearly. Most of them just scramble to fix things and move on. Some file reports, but by then, she's already moved to the next city. How much has she stolen total? Royce flipped through the pages. Across 5 cities over 8 years, probably close to $300,000. I sat back, stunned. And she's never been arrested. Arrested once, in Sacramento. Charges were dropped because the victims couldn't prove she'd intentionally defrauded them. She claimed she'd fallen behind on vendor payments due to personal issues. But there was no criminal intent. Civil suits take years, and by the time judgments come through, she's moved and changed her name. "So what do we do?" Royce leaned forward. "You document everything. You coordinate with the other Portland victims. You make noise, media, social media, wedding forums. You make it impossible for her to operate under any name. Will that get our money back? Probably not. But it might stop her from doing this to someone else." I went home and told Neve everything. She was furious, heartbroken, and scared. Our wedding was 6 weeks away. We had no venue, no caterer, no photographer, and we were out $15,000. But we decided to fight. First, I reached out to the other Portland victims, the 6 couples who'd been scammed before us. We formed a group chat. Everyone shared their evidence, their stories, their frustrations. Then we went public. One of the brides, a woman named Bryn, worked in marketing. She suggested we create a website, Portland Wedding Scam Alert, Sable Oaks/Sandra Kern. We posted everything, photos of Sable, her fake business names, testimonials from victims, court records, a timeline of her scams across multiple cities. We shared the website on every wedding planning forum, Facebook group, and Reddit thread we could find. Within 2 days, it had been viewed 10,000 times. Local reporters started reaching out. A journalist from the Oregonian wrote an article, Portland Wedding Planner accused of defrauding 7 couples. The article included quotes from us, from Gemma, from the other victims. It detailed Sandra Kern's pattern of scams across multiple states. The day the article published, I got a call from the fraud detective. "We've got her," he said. Sandra Kern, aka Sable Oaks, was arrested at a hotel in Vancouver, Washington, just across the river from Portland. She'd been staying there under yet another name. When police searched her hotel room, they found fake business cards, blank contracts, a laptop with dozens of fake vendor confirmation emails she'd created using Photoshop, and bank records showing she'd spent most of the stolen money on rent, restaurants, shopping, and travel. She'd been living off our deposits. The district attorney filed charges, 7 counts of theft by deception, 1 count of identity theft, multiple counts of fraud. Bail was set at $50,000. She couldn't post it. Over the next 6 months, the case moved through the court system. Sandra's lawyer tried to argue that she'd intended to provide services, but had fallen behind due to personal hardship. The prosecutor destroyed that argument by showing the pattern. 8 years, 5 cities, dozens of victims, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In November 2024, Sandra Kern pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to all victims. But here's the reality. There was no money left. She'd spent everything. Even with the restitution order, we weren't going to see a dime. With 6 weeks until our original wedding date, Neve and I had to make a choice. Scramble to salvage something or postpone. We decided to postpone. June 15th was too painful now. We pushed the wedding to September, and this time, we did it ourselves. No wedding planner. We rented a small community center. My brother, who's a chef, agreed to cater. Neve's sister, a photographer, offered to shoot the wedding. Friends helped with decorations. It wasn't the wedding we'd originally envisioned, but it was ours, built by people who actually cared about us. The wedding itself was small, intimate, imperfect, and beautiful. We got married surrounded by 80 people we loved, in a space we decorated ourselves, eating food my brother had made. And you know what? It was perfect, because it was real. Sandra Kern tried to steal our wedding day. She succeeded in stealing our money, but she didn't steal what mattered. The commitment Neve and I made to each other. After Sandra's sentencing, the 7 Portland couples, along with victims from other cities, formed a coalition. We worked with state legislators to pass stronger consumer protection laws for wedding vendors. Oregon now requires wedding planners to be licensed and bonded. Deposits over $5,000 must be held in escrow accounts until services are rendered. There are criminal penalties for vendors who take deposits without intent to provide services. It won't undo what happened to us, but maybe it'll prevent the next Sandra Kern from destroying someone else's wedding. I also became active in online wedding planning communities, not as a vendor, but as someone who warns couples about red flags. If a planner asks for payment to a personal account, walk away. Always verify directly with vendors that contracts are signed and deposits are paid. Check online reviews from multiple sources, not just the planner's website. If something feels off, trust your gut. I wish I'd followed that advice. I wish I'd listened to the small voice that said, something's not quite right, when Sable asked for payment to her personal account. But I didn't, and that mistake cost us $15,000 and months of stress. If I could go back and talk to myself 8 months earlier, sitting in that coffee shop with Sable Oaks, here's what I'd say. First, trust is earned, not given. A beautiful portfolio and glowing testimonials don't mean anything if you can't verify them independently. Call references, search online, ask for proof. Second, professional businesses use professional accounts. If someone asks you to pay a large sum to a personal account, that's a red flag, always. Third, verify everything. Don't assume your wedding planner is handling things. Call vendors yourself. Get written confirmation. Stay involved. Fourth, if something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore your instincts just because it's inconvenient or you want to believe the best in people. And fifth, document everything. Contracts, emails, texts, payment records. If things go wrong, that documentation is your only protection. Sandra Kern is in prison now. She'll be out in a few years, and I have no doubt she'll try again under a new name in a new city. That's who she is, a predator who targets people during one of the most vulnerable, hopeful moments of their lives. But we stopped her in Portland, and with the new laws, it'll be harder for her, or anyone like her, to operate the same way. Neve and I have been married for 7 months now. We live in a small house in southeast Portland. We're happy. We're building a life together. The wedding day itself? It's a blur of chaos and improvisation. But the marriage? That's what matters. That's what lasts. Sandra Kern thought she could take that from us. She thought a ruined wedding would break us. She was wrong. We got married anyway. We built something real. And in the end, she's the one behind bars. And we're the ones who got our happy ending. Not the one we planned, but the one we built ourselves. And honestly, that makes it even better.